Oh my goodness. So rude. Hey everybody. It's your friend Angus Wright. I also go by Angus By Design. And today is Friday, March 27th, 2026. And my goodness, what an exciting day it has been. Kind of working on a couple of projects, trying to get my life sorted out and situated, which can be fun at the best of times. And if I sound tired or strained, um, it's because I sometimes forget my own strength or my lack of strength. And I moved around a couple of very large uh, cabinets uh, and went for a nice big walk. I had to go and replace a bank card. Uh, you know, living in 2026, our banking is very vulnerable. I think it's easy to be scammed or phished or whatever, right? So yesterday I received notices that my bank card had been breached, and so yeah, I took the steps needed and went and replaced it. But I also went to my mailbox, and inside were 3 cards. And I thought, oh, okay, like my birthday's coming up. So it's the 27th. My birthday's on March 31st. And I'm turning 50. So, it didn't surprise me to see cards in the mail. And even when I opened them and read them, well, that didn't surprise me either. And so I'm no stranger to just reading my mail. I'll preface this with, I can assure you, that anytime somebody speaks up, anytime somebody tries to advocate, self-advocate, if you're a person who's been a community builder, an organizer, any kind of like perceived leader, I guess, probably around the world, but especially in North America, especially in Canada, especially in my town, you can probably relate to the kind of emotional labor it takes sometimes, just because the people who sit in the shadows or behind burner accounts or really, like I used to refer to them as the lurkers and the jerkers. They're not really people who have any real power per se. Now, in my life, I do find that they are people who actually have like a lack of power, a lack of self control. And so, there's been times where I've pushed and been assertive or aggressive. There's been times where I've been sarcastic. And there's, times that based on the behaviors around these things, where I've actually been more concerned about um, everybody's wellness and safety as opposed to just my own. Does that mean that I'm not affected by these things? I absolutely am. In my life, uh, who I am to my core is a peaceful person. Um, I'm turning 50, and and with that, there come certain things that we have to contend with. There's certain, I'm learning medically, like, you know, there's certain vaccines I should get, like the shingles vaccine. I've been going to the dentist. I live with the effects of having bariatric surgery, so there are things that I need to do for my wellness that the average person doesn't have to do, but because I had a unique surgery, not only to me, not only to Canada, but it takes extra to sort of see and treat and deal with certain things. So anyway, all that to say, I received these cards in the mail. Now, before I read them, I'll say I'm not a stranger to mail fraud. I'm not a stranger to receiving hate mail. I'm not a stranger to people and organizations taking advantage of letters, cards, notices that really have nothing to do with nothing, that they've used the mail in order to add to their approach or their behaviors, or to get their digs in, right? I've actually had my mail tampered with. I've had it stolen or read. I've had it withheld, and then suddenly it'll show up. And I've had people access closed mail in order to threaten and intimidate people. So I just want to say, like, while this might seem dramatic, or it might seem, we may receive it in a certain sort of way, it's really not new. It's certainly not new to me. And, I have lived experience and long-term experience being somebody in organizations who, is counter to what the majority thinks or feels, or certainly the culture that's within there. So, I called this "You've Got Mail" Butthurt edition. But really, it's just, documenting the journey. And, in the tradition of going live on Facebook, I thought, well, shit, this is a great way of documenting it. I received them today. It's really cool because it looks like what I could sort of see from the mailer is that it was mailed out of Montreal, actually. So it actually went out in the mail yesterday, out of Montreal, which is, I think, the main hub for Quebec and Eastern Canada. So, which should I read first? I received, so they came in threes. Now, I think this was the same case as the last time, so I don't know. And the style is definitely there. The handwriting actually looks pretty familiar. Two of them look like they're written by. I actually can't really tell if they're all the same handwriting. I really should maybe take a handwriting course, but it's good that they got to me because the person that wrote them actually put the wrong postal code down. So the fact that it arrived is pretty interesting. So so there's 3 of them now. Let's see, 50 years later. Okay. On your anniversary. Okay. I'm just trying to see, maybe there's a dramatic effect. Okay. Well, I'll start with the blue one here, and then what I'll do is I'll make my way. Let's see here. What's the best? Alright, cool. Alright, we'll do it in this order. So, here they are. The first one is a high 5 for turning 5, and it features a minion. Now, if you follow any of my stuff, you'll know that through my art, through telling my story, through processing, through just generally, I've referred to minions before. It often comes up. So this person picked up a card. Only cost him $1, so it must be from like a dollar store type thing. But yeah, so it has a cute, and then inside it says, hope an awesome, full of fun 5-year-old has a super yummy birthday. Happy birthday. Well, that's cute. It's kind of neat because it looks like the minion is giving the finger, which, I think that's kind of cute. So it says 50 years and still living in the past and with no future. Your social media filled with shared memories of something 6 years ago, which was a repost of something 8 years ago, and so on and so on. What a waste of a life. You still blame everyone but yourself for your choices. Your life as it is the consequences of your own actions and decisions. Dharma that. You are the bully, but you play the victim. You deserve every minute of misery you endure because you inflict it on yourself. That's deep. You will forever be a rat anus. Oh, okay, well that was maybe I guess a rat anus. I don't know, like there's no apostrophe s, so I guess I'm not being called a rat's anus. I'm being called a rat anus. And then there's hashtags, which I think is great because who doesn't love a good hashtag? So hashtag no threat, just truth. hashtag can dish it but not take it, and hashtag the right bully. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you know someone that's in Montreal as of yesterday, or if you recognize the writing, or the style, I guess, maybe the style of. But I definitely, there's a certain approach people take when they, you know, I noticed like especially with people who want to assert or force a narrative, right? Your social media is filled with this. What you still blame. Your life is the consequences. You are the bully, and you play the victim. Like all that is it's rhetoric, right? For me, I often am writing about or talking about people who experience harm as opposed to victims, because when something happens to us or we experience something, especially around injustice, the world likes to sort of frame things like, oh, well, you're being a victim, or you're playing a victim, or you're victimizing. It doesn't get me off. Like, it's not my cup of tea to go around thinking that, just because I've experienced things like in the long term, or just because, things like this pop up, that somehow I'm just like written off as, right? Like somebody who is just like in this narrow box. So there's a difference between somebody who's a victim of crime, aka somebody who has been harmed. Now, this person won't see that because they're likely still really deep in that culture, or they still really have stakes on what they've done, right? Or the part they played. This person could be feeling guilty because, again, I am a bus operator. I signed up. I went to work in 2007. I became a member of the union. And that is how I will remain, a member of the union. If I'm being served, then serve me. If there's a place where I can learn, then teach me. That's not been what has happened so far. And really, to be honest, when this person's talking about 50 years and still living in the past, well, the fact that I'm this old, I'm grateful. Just about 20 years ago, I underwent a life-changing surgery. I'm 6'2" and 225 pounds. I lost 300 pounds, which means if I were to pick up a 75-pound dog, that's how much on top of me that I was carrying extra every minute of every day. And I wasn't going to live past 35 is what I was being told, and I had every right to believe that, because I had been with other people and knew other people who struggled with that level of weight, and the strain that it puts on the body and the system is a lot. It's not to say that I didn't love that body or that I wasn't happy as a big guy. It's just to say that if I wanted to live, I had to intervene, right? So who I am today is alive. And I love life, and I love being alive. Because, nearly 20 years ago, I was willing to I couldn't see a future where I wasn't a big person. And when I went into the surgery, I actually really wasn't sure on any level that I was going to survive it. And so I'm thankful for every day. So reaching 50 is quite unique for me and quite wonderful. It says your social media filled with shared memories of something 6 years ago, which was a repost of something 8 years ago, and so on and so on. Well, listen, my friend, um, I've been a bus operator for 19 years. Operator 5946. From day one to day now. My social media is my social media. Whether anybody understands that is not my responsibility for them to understand. And to me, if you're somebody who feels so compelled, right? If the evidence is there that you're so compelled to worry about my social media, well, my friend, many have tried, but many have failed. We can't control all things. And what some folks are learning is that, they can't have their own social media, they can't have groups, and they can't have this, that, and the other, and then just start to go out there and think that they control everybody else, or they control the message that everybody else sends out. So, people have been able to see or not see my social media, and to be honest, there's a lot of people who've seen it that the context has been twisted, or or what have you, right? So, really, it's none of your business. Like, the power and the control that you have is whether you follow it or not. Now, mind you, I in 2019 especially, 2020 especially, there were a handful of people who knew better and could do better, who really tried to use a lot of resources to suggest that my social media was a threat to them. And that was just a lie. There was no threat. And so, when the provincial court and the criminal court, not because of anything I've done or said or been part of in terms of, causing it, I'm cleared in those courts because using them for leverage was just a dirty trick. So these were actions that were taken, and there are very real consequences for filing false reports, for using or abusing police resources, for going after a member, for insinuating things. And honestly, it doesn't matter what your role is. If you look at my social media, or if you read the news, you'll see that there are some pretty powerful people who are facing some pretty powerful charges and accusations that really far exceed anything that my little voice could say or do, right? And then in reference to those things, just because I mentioned things like the violence that occurred in 1999 in my work place, like, that doesn't mean that that's a threat to anybody, and really, so it takes a village to make a mistake when it comes to that. So, in terms of that, I would encourage this person to, maybe there's resources, maybe there's mediation, maybe there's a way, because at this point, when it comes down to this, I mean, what else can one do, right? If they think I'll forever be a rat anus, I guess that's on them. If they feel that I'm a bully, but I play the victim well, I guess, I mean, who am I bullying, right? And according to them, I'm bullying myself, so there's that. Now, the second one is on a blue, and it says good luck, and it has, I don't know if that's like a horseshoe, a kitty on a horseshoe, and 4-leaf clovers. And it says, hope it goes I hope it goes just the way you want it to. And this says, congrats on your Carleton application. Oh wait, you did not follow through, so you were never really accepted in. You want to, or you won't follow through today. So who will you blame for that? What will be your excuse? Another year of hashtag ATU victim you. At least you are consistent. And then it says, signed, everyone you ever mocked online. All right. Well, so my Carleton application, this came a couple years ago, where I thought, well, shit, do I want to see if I can go to school? And I knew this guy, Patrick, and I met Patrick through, a mutual friend of ours had passed away. And I opened up like a peer, kind of just like a peer-to-peer. It was when I became a RAP co-facilitator back in 2020. And Patrick was coming to those, like just those hangouts and those meetups, and we met back then. And he was part of the Carleton, but he was telling me and helping me go through the steps. There's like an ESP program through Carleton, and so that was something. So I had applied and I got approved. I got most of the steps. It was just that I wasn't in a place at the time to be able to get it all ready in time for the semester to start. And that's okay. I'm used to that, having to take a few kicks at the can, so to speak. So, and then didn't follow through. All right, not really accepted. Again, like evidence shows otherwise. So clearly, this person is going through it. So who do I blame? I'm not really playing the blame game. There is cause and effect, of course. There is, the reality of challenges faced. A lot of it is, how do you overcome when other people perhaps have too much control and not as much accountability. And then my excuse, again, we're back with this victim thing. And then saying I ever mocked people and stuff. So again, it's when you're in an environment, and as you can see, it's a lot of like, this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is. And people who really just need people to agree with them, or who just continue to make those kind of attempts and use that kind of language. Like, again, we're talking about things like coercive control, right? But we're also talking about someone who doesn't have like their own, like, honestly, I've never gone and bought 3 cards, uh, and then went through, and this person, when I looked at the envelope, the writing is one way, and then it's like they almost went out of their way. Like, it looks like children's writing, right? So you can sort of see where they're starting in that one pattern, and then it's like they're trying to be like, oh no, there's more than one person that has this opinion, right? And yet that just kind of isn't the case. Same thing here, right? There's like this third envelope, similar writing, but trying a little bit, maybe too hard to make it look different. It reminds me of Brene Brown when I think it was her talk on vulnerability, and she talks about having an invisible army. She's like, she was referring to a company that was helping design the cover for her book. And then the guy messaged her back the second time and goes, "We all think this is great." And she goes, "Oh no, buddy, don't try to leverage your invisible army to get your point across." And that always stuck with me because people will really try really hard to leverage an invisible army. So the front says, "On your anniversary, here's to the love that you happily share." And on the back, they went as far as to say, "Today and always a victim." So again, right? Like, somebody gets a real, kick out of victimizing in that language. And then, so this is written to Rat Anus. The biggest bullies always claim on social media that they are the victim. And then victim, victim, victim. I'm always the victim. And that's in quotes. That's why none of your relationships, friendships, or even you jobs, I think they meant your jobs, never last. Everyone gets tired of your BS and eventually sees you for who and what you really are, a bully. The common toxic person of each of those failed jobs and relationships is the same person you see every morning in the mirror. You. Here's to you both. You're a wonderful pair. Happy anniversary. They put US in there. And happiness always. Oops, forgot you're single still. And then hashtag things will never change. Hashtag why me. And hashtag too lazy to adult. Right? So, I guess, what can really be said? What can really, what does this tell me, right? Now, I think the person maybe writing it wants me to feel bad about myself, or maybe they want me to believe these things, or maybe they really do feel like that's what I say and that I do. It's really easy to, in technology and in in social media, it's really easy to kind of get caught up, I guess, in the hype and to think that everybody who's using the platforms is trying to do the same thing, right? I guess when the things that impact our lives aren't always cookie cutter or don't follow the same pattern of, canned joy or scripted, what have you. I guess it really is easy, or I suppose, to interpret things, but clearly in these three cards, it demonstrates whether it's one person or three people or two people or whatever. It really demonstrates that the person who's sending it is really caught up, one, on my social media, two, on a life that isn't theirs and really isn't any of their business, and three, really caught up on a narrative that really doesn't have anything to do with me because, the anus and the rat anus and the, like, all of that narrative was created without my input. For me, receiving these cards here, the other cards I believe I received when I lived in Blackburn Hamlet. It's no secret that I lived and rented in Blackburn Hamlet between 2014 and 2020, and it's no secret that I lost my place there and had to move here. It's no secret that I'm divorced, and it's no secret that I had a partner and I had a roommate before I found myself single. And there's no secret that I've been single since. So, this is all stuff that a person gathers and then tries to weaponize, right? But it's also an indicator of ongoing issues. And again, I'm cleared. I'm cleared in court. I'm cleared in, every area of life. Does that mean that I don't wish I could access education more? Does it mean that everything's perfect? Does it mean that I know everything and that I'm right about everything? No. But if you go to somebody's social media page, especially somebody who's putting out their own content, and you continuously interfere, you continuously stalk them, I can name drop between December and now. I can tell you a handful of people who only pop up at certain times. And they have way more to hide than I could ever hide. Places that are responsible to serve us or to protect us or to represent us, there's a lot more responsibility to be had than anything that I could say. So with that, I'll probably wrap it up. For me, what can I say? What can I say to this? The bullying, the suggesting I'm a bully. That, again, that's a narrative that makes no sense. People that I mock online, if we're talking about the crab trees, well, I will mock Clint and Cody Crabtree until they figure their lives out, until they figure and somehow step up and take responsibility for themselves. I don't owe them anything. Clint Crabtree was the president of my union. Clint Crabtree received an email in 2016 after I had emailed Jim Watson, the mayor, and followed the procedures as I understood them to be, and expressed what I saw and what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. The former Mayor Watson said in a response to that email that it wasn't in his purview or whatever, and he took action and arranged a meeting. Clint Crabtree, who was representing Ottawa ATU279, promised that he would have somebody there, and the email that he had responded to and that he had received was also received by the president of ATUCanada and the president of the time International. So Clint Crabtree took it upon himself to responded in a way that made no sense to the outside world, made promises to show up, and then while I was sitting in the meeting did not show up. And that was in May of 2016. I marched in the parade that year, right in front of the bus, and my sign was the email subject line that the city and the union received in separate emails. And so that was 2016. I had been in the workplace environment as a fare processor, transit fare processor, and a number of other jobs in 2015. And the president, Craig Watson, had received a letter from a lawyer, and that when he was president at that time, he responded, and he did not respond in a favorable way or in a realistic way. And if you want my opinion, the relationship between those two presidents, Watson and Crabtree, I mean, they kind of really deserve each other. But again, I'll circle back to say that our workplace environment, our union on a local level and on a grander level, we swear to oaths. And when we step into a role of shop steward, well, that ups it. The expectation is higher, that you're leading by example. And then when we are on an executive board, well, that's an elected position. That is representing the interests of everybody. So, again, and on top of that, in June of 2019, I had received a letter from the union's lawyer saying that they recognized that I had the right to dissent, and then they went into a tangent similar to these cards of stuff that just didn't apply out here in the real world. and that if the tables were turned, there's no way they'd accept that treatment. So and this was way before. This was these were things that were happening, and so when I went back in 2017, 10 years after, I think it was May or June of 2017, I went through the whole training again. And so when I'm talking about people like Harry, right, who I met in training in 2017, who would then go on to be elected in 2018, again, when I'm connected with Harry through my training, he was in a role of authority. He was an instructor. There should be a trust there. There's a number of people that are familiar with the conditions, the workplace, at that time, and what has happened since. 2018 again was elections, and it was the actions of then President Crabtree who used me against other members that he just had a bone to pick with, or he just wanted to play dirty with. And all I did was do what he said to do, because if I wanted to be able to stay in my job, which was my goal, then I wasn't being given a lot of choice. So as he was telling me to do stuff, press charges or file complaints or do this or that, he can't have it both ways, where he leads me down a path and then sets me up. And that's what was happening. And so by the time 2019 comes around and I receive a cease and desist that just isn't appropriate on any level, especially from a representative who wasn't, I don't care how many dollars you make, I don't care if you're a partner in a firm, I don't care what you're doing. Again, under the law, under the oath we take, the training we receive, the place in which we operate business, like there's expectations, and so it doesn't fall on me. Same thing with the former mayor. Like, there's limits, there's boundaries, there's choices, and there's actions. And the actions taken against me and the inactions taken for me are things that are outside of my control, but not outside of what I deserved at the time, or what I deserve now. And to be straight up honest, this is an election year. It's 2026, and next year, who knows? Maybe by next summer I'll be in training again and returning to my job as operator. The rest is between me and doctors, and it's between me and what I'm capable of, and what I'm able to overcome. But to me, it's not that far-fetched if I was able to go back and retrain starting in 2007 and then retraining in 2017, something tells me after this year, a lot of the people who were the instigators of a lot of issues and a lot of abuse and a lot of assaults, something tells me they're not going to be there by 2027 or so. And so I don't have to believe that I'm a write-off. There's still some people to retire, and again, I can't control the beliefs, the choices, the actions, and the buffoonery of people who really just got greedy or felt powerful. So, having said all that, right? It's always nice to receive mail. I forget who the famous person was who said that even negative attention is good attention, or negative press is good press. But I think if people want to write letters or cards, I would suggest writing them to the people who either put you in the position in the first place, or who can put you in a position to resolve your issue. Because what I know to be true is I am a law-abiding citizen. I'm doing my best, and I face extraordinary circumstances each and every day, which I don't feel the need or the want to justify for people who just thought they were part of a team that could rule forever, right? Times are changing, and right here on the internet, this is actually the best place to be, because in a land where people will just say and do anything without accountability, the internet is forever. So I'm going to pull a card, and in this card I'm going to hope that whoever felt the need, or whomever, whatever group of people, be it 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, or 279, I hope that they are able to find peace and love. I hope they're able to control their own impulses, and maybe learn how to click away or to block me, or that they, if they're using me or this narrative to hurt themselves or to fuel their rage or their alcoholism or their drugs or their anger, that they get what they need out of it, but that they're able to get through it and to get past it. So I dedicate this to them. Okay? Boom. What does this say? It's the snake spirit. Oh my goodness. And the snake spirit says, time to heal. Be kind of cool if that was card number 50, of course. So let's see, what does that say? I've been doing oracle readings for like 100 years now. Ask your question as you shuffle, then flip the top card over. All right. So if it was a 2 card spread, it sort of talks about, the first position anchoring us, and and with like a thought or a concept to pay attention to, and the second position telling us what to do for our next right action. So let's meld those two together. So let's think about it conceptually. And maybe it'll inform our next right action. All of us need healing at times, and when Snake Spirit appears, it's time to repair, renew, and replenish yourself and your vulnerable heart. Self-care and maintenance work are needed so that your vitality can arise. Give yourself the space to nourish your own well-being. Vulnerability is necessary for friendships and partnerships to work, which means all of us will have tender emotions at times. Be gentle with yourself and others now. Shed the past and step into a new way of being, for vitality is rising in you. This might be a good time to honor the work you have done to heal, grow, and repair any damage within you, within those you care about, and within your community. Celebrate together how far all of you have come in your healing journey and all that you have created. Unburden yourself of anything that no longer supports wellness, prosperity, positive relationships, and well-being, and open the door for healing to occur. The protection message in the Snake Spirit says, no matter how much you may have lost or how you have been disappointed, you are called by Snake Spirit to shed the past and practice radical self-acceptance now. Only by forgiving yourself can you move on, regardless of whether anyone else is ready for healing. When your tender new skin first becomes exposed, you may feel uncomfortable. Love yourself and remain vulnerable anyway. You have been weak, but you are becoming strong and developing wisdom. And you will do better in the future. Snake Spirit reminds you that hearts can be so easily wounded. Apologies and amends go a long way. Self-forgiveness for your role in what happened can help you heal. Remember, it is the one who has been wounded who often has the greatest power to help others heal. So, that's pretty awesome. Time to heal. So, what I take from that is even if I'm the victim in your life, even if I create misery, even if I mock people, even if I'm over here blaming and sharing misery over and over and over and over and over, you don't have to be part of that. You can heal. You can heed the snake spirit. It's been an hour. I'm just curious, given that I'm being referred to again as rat anus, which, I've been called worse. I've also been called better. I mean, that's not necessarily like I wouldn't want that to be the name my mother called me. I don't know. Is there a rat spirit? No, but there's a mouse. So let's check out what the mouse says. Maybe I can be less of a rat and be more of a mouse. Mouse spirit, tend to the small things. So tend to the small things, not the small people. Peace be you. That has been a live reading of my mail. If you would like to send me a letter, my address isn't private. It's if you Google Angus By Design, you'll actually see it. Angus By Design is it's a sole proprietorship. It represents my art, my creativity. It covers my intellectual property. I am a mixed multimedia artist. I do performance, I do improv, I do workshops. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm a certified peer specialist. I work in trauma. I'm an emotional CPR practitioner. I facilitate mental health first aid, and I'm a certified personal medicine coach. I'm a certified well-being mentor. I'm a community contributor, and I'm a person with a disability who happens to be on social media. If anybody has any questions about my rights to be here, anything that I've had to say, if it exists on any platform, it means that it doesn't go against any community standards. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that I received a letter in June 2019 from a law firm that confirmed my right to dissent, and then made a number of threats and made a number of statements, and that hadn't been followed up with, then I will probably feel quite safe, especially given what took place in August and then September and then in through to 2020, that there's not really anything that needs to be actioned at this side of things. So be well, be at peace. If you have any concerns, if you are in distress in any way, if any of this is frustrating, please contact 988. That's available across coast to coast, both in Canada and the US. And if you're in Ontario and you feel that something needs to be actioned, then consider contacting 211. Here in Centertown, we refer to it as the Anchor program, but that essentially helps to ease the burden on the police force. Part of what keeps me talking is that through the efforts of the former mayor and a number of city councilors and a number of people who are then also on the police board and all sorts of stuff and yada yada boom boom. You know, their narrative and the collection of accusations and the collection of using police resources in a negative way really did expose me to a number of hazards and risks that really were not mine. So nobody has the right to use another person as a pawn in their scheme or their schema. And so it's more important that we all stay out here in reality and accountability and in documented spaces than it is for, you know, closet cases, creeps, and people who you know, are happy to inflict this type of stuff on others. I think the world is speaking up now and saying enough is enough. So, all right, it's been 106. No, is that right? No, it's been an hour and 6 minutes, which would be what, 66 minutes. I'm gonna go for another minute and a half just because I like the number 108. If anybody has any questions, concerns, they need feedback or follow up, if you're somebody that I have mentored or supported or done peer support or shared resources with, I always consider myself accountable. I'm accountable to the fidelity of what we did, of the project that we did. So as a union member, I hold my oath in fidelity. As a City of Ottawa worker, bus transit operator, I try to do my due diligence to follow the policies and the procedures, whether or not they seem to work for me or have a response system. But individually speaking, if you have landed in a space where I have indicated that I know something or I represent something, please know that I'm happy to answer any questions, okay? So we'll just be really on the up and up with that. Until later, I'll see you soon. I'll post this on the YouTubes, also known as Angus By Design. So I'm gonna go and keep going with my day. I'm making arrangements with my home, so I'll see you soon.